Nah, Jake one went crazy on that beat. I can't even hold you. Like, he really went dumb on that beat. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the latest edition of Wos Speaks. I'm your host, Big Wos AKA Wosny Lambre. Super happy to be on with you guys today, man. Another freaking crazy, busy news week. Just His shit just never stops. It's kind of crazy. Not gonna lie. It just straight up didn't feel like this with Biden. Like that. There was just news fucking constantly being made. Trump did his first essentially State of the Union. Technically, he was just addressing the Congress. I personally don't think these things are important at all. However, people do watch them and pay attention to them. And so, whatever. I don't know. I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys. I read the Cliff Notes and didn't watch this thing live. Saw some of the clips that came out of it. Saw the congressman that ran out shaking his cane at people and Democrats holding up signs and shit as protests and wearing pink. I mean, typical Democratic Party shit. Trump himself, I think most of it was just, especially the first half, from what I could gather, was dedicated to culture war, red meat shit, which, like, okay, cool. I don't think that's why this guy won the presidency, but if this is what he thinks he can do to pacify his admirers and supporters in the base or whatever, fine. I just find it hard to believe that this shit will actually work in his favor. Just going heavy on culture war and stuff. There's even polling out I saw where it's like only 36% of the nation thinks he's paying enough attention to the economy, which I think is why this guy won. People thought that Joe Biden wasn't doing enough to fix their problems economically, and they thought that Trump would do a better job with this. This whole culture war shit that this guy is insisting upon, and a lot of the people in the party are insisting upon, I think is quite hilarious. But whatever, Elon and these guys continue with pace with the nonsense in Doge. Pretty important Supreme Court um, decision where basically they ruled against Trump. It said that he had to pay out the contracts that had already been guaranteed and promised by the freaking Congress to these aid organizations. I thought that was a pretty big deal, especially since two of the quote unquote people from the quote unquote conservative wing and Comey Barrett and Chief Justice Roberts gave the majority were on the majority side against Trump. Roberts, I'm not really that surprised by. Like, this dude is pretty like institutionalist and deeply, deeply cares about the credibility of the Supreme Court. So that's always front of mind for him. Like, will this make us look credible or not? Um, and especially when it's not like checking corporate power, these dudes a lot of times will surprise you. Like when it's not, you know, a check on corporate power, because best believe they're not doing that. But this was a little different. It's kind of just like, yo, bro, we got a Congress. They have their authority. We're the Supreme Court. We have our authority. And I think that's just like kind of the only check on Trump and Trump 2.0 and his cronies is that like the institutions of the American government are very self-interested in not allowing this guy to be a dictator in the sense that they'd have to neuter themselves. And so I think the court kind of understands that, like, if we just completely make Congress wholly irrelevant, even though they're doing a good enough job, especially the Republicans right now, who are in the majority of both wings of Congress, um, if they become wholly irrelevant, we're next. And these people work their whole lives to get these cushy ass lifetime appointments. And I don't think they're about to just give up their relevancy so that Donald Trump could be dictator of America and Elon Trump could be dictator of America. That's about the only thing, man. Like self-interest. It's not ideology. It's not like, oh, the country and the precious constitution. It's none of that shit, man. It's these guys are self-interested in holding on to power. And the entire system is based on the idea that there's a sharing of power between the different branches of the government. And I don't see why the Supreme Court is going to cede its own power or that they would preside over something that completely neutered Congress's power. Because again, doing that is just going to, they're the next target. Like, like it's obvious. It's like, all right, Congress can't tell us shit. All right, cool. We got that in the courts. Now we're gonna make it so that the courts can't like whatever. That's just kind of been my viewpoint about this whole Trump dictator, fascism, blah, blah, blah. Forget about the lack of, when you think about the conditions in Europe, in the 1920s and 30s that uh, allowed for something like fascism to take hold. Forget about all that shit. That whatever. I think that's relevant, but we don't need to get into that. I just think that these guys are self-interested in being influential in our freaking powerful ass country. Like this shit seems kind of obvious to me, and I thought that court ruling was a good indication of that. So all of this shit happened this week. Of course, there's more Doge craziness happening. Elon has people writing him, basically you have to write an essay to your boss explaining the 3 things that you did that you accomplished. Like this is like 3rd grade journal entry shit, whatever. I think the biggest news though is Trump and the tariffs. And so these guys, man, I'm not gonna lie. This shit is just wild. So these guys announce some tariffs on Mexico and Canada because Trump, and we've said it a bunch, Trump doesn't really have a coherent, I shouldn't say coherent. He's not an ideologue, right? Meaning what? He's not a movement conservative. He's not a free market absolutist. He's not, a Christian conservative. He's not didn't go to the Milton Friedman School, Chicago economics and all of that shit. Like he's not any of that. Like when you think about the strands, the different ideological strands of the right, if anything, he's probably like kind of closer to a Reagan Republican or whatever. But even that, I don't think like describes this guy's ideological posture. He just has a few things that he seems to really give a shit about. One of them being clearly immigration, which he's paid a lot of lip service to. But y'all notice that immigration ain't getting a lot of oxygen? Have y'all noticed that? The country was promised a mass deportation of 10 million, quote unquote, undocumented illegal immigrants. It's not happening. Trump isn't agitating for the Congress to provide more resources to ICE to pursue that endeavor. Yeah, have y'all noticed that the only shit that's happening is trying to gut the freaking regulatory state so that Trump and his cronies can steal more money? The crypto shit, I mean, forget it. Was the crypto shit this week or last week? I think the crypto thing where the crypto reserve, where we're basically gonna back these crypto companies, like 6 of them, favored nation crypto companies, and directly make let's face it, the biggest holders of stuff like Bitcoin and Ethereum and all of that stuff, just basically make them rich with shit that has no practical application whatsoever. I think XRP, in terms of financial transactions, like you could make an argument that that's like, all right, they're trying to actually introduce a different product to the marketplace that, if they're to believe, would like change the way we do electronic digital transactions. Cool. The rest of this shit is nothing. It's literally a log somewhere on a spreadsheet. This shit means nothing. And we know the biggest holders of some of these freaking, cryptos is like people like Goldman Sachs and a bunch of these other tech, but like it's the same people that own this shit, that already own our economy. And Trump's talking about, let's backstop it with our American taxpayers, thereby just a massive wealth transfer to motherfuckers who are already rich. Yes, I think it would be cool. Yes, nice. Like that, some normies that really bought into the crypto shit will make a nice little nut for themselves. Nothing crazy, but we know the fucking vast majority of this stuff is owned by these already filthy rich entities. Anyway, Trump wants to basically shovel money right into their pockets with this crypto thing. Again, anyway, and I still think this is the biggest news of the week. These tariffs. that has been basically a through line, man. One of the few consistent through lines of Trump 2.0 from 1.0 is the tariff stuff and the immigration stuff. Even shit like crypto. For crypto, he said, "Oh, crypto's a scam. It's undermining the power of the American dollar." Now he's on board with crypto. China, remember China? He started this new, let's pivot and make China our new Cold War enemy. Trump pioneered that shit. Now he's like, no, actually TikTok is cool. Actually, like, let's figure out how to work with China. Made an about face. Like there's no really real through line outside of the freaking immigration hawkery and this tariff stuff. So he comes out and he's like, yeah, man, 25% tariff on Mexico and Canada, which is like, okay. Then what I'm going to assume happened, the stock market freaking crashes. Okay, Trump, he's said this plenty of times, but he thinks like basically his approval rating is the stock market. He thinks the stock market is the weather vane for whether he's doing a good job or not. He said this so many times in the past. And obviously stocks take a major tumble. And of course, he walks the shit back. Like, this is what I mean, people, about like not getting too crazy in terms of watching these guys basically just come up with these different haphazard ass policy remedies, man. Like, some of this stuff has a level of coherence to it, but a lot of it is just bullshit, bro. It's just bullshit. A lot of it because it's executive orders, this stuff can be reversed the second this guy leaves office, so it's not sticky. That's why it's just like the stuff that's going to be lasting is just his fucking tax cuts, which will end up being the only thing these dudes pass through Congress is a major tax cut for the rich. But again, the tariffs that he's doing via executive order. Can you pull this up for me, please, Jerv? Already, they're pulling it back. Vast majority of products from Mexico and Canada will be exempt from tariffs. This is from the New York Times, folks. 2 days after imposing sweeping tariffs on Canada and Mexico, President Trump on Thursday abruptly suspended many of those levies, sowing confusion with investors and businesses that depends on trade with the countries. The president said he would allow products that are traded under the rules of the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement, the trade pact that he signed in his first term, to avoid the stiff 25% tariffs he imposed just days ago on two of America's largest trading partners. The suspension effectively abandons many of the tariffs that Mr. Trump had placed on Canadian and Mexican products. Levies, he said, were necessary to stem the flow of drugs and migrants into the United States. His decision came a day after he said he would grant a 30-day reprieve to automakers who had complained to the president that the levies would cause severe damage to U.S. car makers. Mr. Trump implied that any relief would be short-lived, saying that other tariffs on Canadian and Mexican products are coming in April. Mr. Trump's chaotic stop-and-start approach has sent stock shocks to the market, tumbling and generating anxiety among industries that depend on trade with Canada and Mexico, which account for more than a quarter of U.S. imports and nearly a third of U.S. exports. After Mr. Trump imposed tariffs, Canada retaliated with levies on $20 billion worth of American goods, including agricultural products, and Mexico was threatening to impose its own import taxes on U.S. goods on Sunday if Mr. Trump did not relent. Still, the decision to suspend the tariffs did little to calm financial markets, which have been jittery since Mr. Trump ratcheted his trade war earlier this week. In addition to hitting Canada and Mexico, Mr. Trump placed a second 10% tariff on all Chinese imports, prompting another round of retaliation from Beijing on American products. The president has not suspended any of his levies on China yet. The S&P 500 tumbled 1.8% on Thursday, taking a slide for the index this week to 3.6%, which sounds like a little bit, but is a freaking lot of money, y'all. It's a lot. And putting it on course for its worst week since a banking crisis 2 years ago that felled some of the country's smaller lenders. Speaking from the White House on Thursday, Mr. Trump said his decision would protect American car makers and farmers. He insisted that there were no delays at all, and his order had nothing to do with the market. I'm not even looking at the market because long term, the United States will be very strong with what's happening here. Now, these are countries and companies, foreign companies that have been ripping us off, and no president did anything about it until I came along. All right, Jerv, that's good. Um, yeah, man. Oh God. Just for clarity, guys, like we know this shit has nothing to do with fentanyl or illegal immigration. I mean, specifically from Canada. I mean, like just the notion that Canada is supplying us with fentanyl is absolutely absurd on its face. But that has to be the sort of the pretext in order to have these executive orders, because it makes it so that the mechanism for this executive order is that there's some emergency at the border, and so Trump has to enact it. So that's why they keep saying this drug shit, even though we know it has nothing to do with that. They have to say that in order to basically justify the sanctions. They have to call it some kind of state of emergency, which is why the executive has to do what he does. And look, folks, like there's certain stuff that we don't do here, right? So look, like if you're going to impose a tariff, like I think if like the tariff or the ban on stuff like Chinese cars, for instance, which apparently if you go on the internet, those shits are sick. Like China has completely caught up in terms of automaking. They're really good at it apparently now, but we ban those cars. And the sort of theory being like, we have Ford, GM, etc. here. We make American cars. We want to protect that American market. And not only just that, we want to protect our capacity to manufacture stuff. God forbid we get in some crazy global type war. In World War II, like car factories just turned into weapons making factories and plane making factories and this type of factory. Like, because we already had a manufacturing capacity in place, it was nice that we could stop with the cars and fund the war effort against the Nazis and the Axis powers, right? It's like, so the idea being like, all right, we're done with China. We don't want Chinese cars coming in. If German cars are gonna come in, we're gonna put a heavy tax on these guys, make it more cost prohibitive because we want to encourage people to fuck with Ford and GM and those folks. Cool. You can see a through line of some semblance of a strategy and makes sense. And the example that always comes up is avocados. Why the hell are we fucking putting tariffs on avocados from Mexico when we don't got avocados here? We're not replacing it with American avocados. So why would we put a big tariff or a tax on that? Like, there's no coherence to a lot of this shit. And that's the problem, guys. Like, why the hell? Like, cars, okay. Certain agricultural goods that we're not doing here. There's a bunch of just goods that we just don't make here. So levying a tax or a tariff on this stuff when we have no American business to sort of lift up in its stead, what are we doing that for? This is literally just a tax on consumers at that point. Because like, all right, cool. I think consumers would be like, all right, you know what? I'm not willing to pay for the fancy schmancy Mexican or Canadian whatever. I'm going to pay less for that American thing. Fuck it. Even if I think it's a little bit better from Canada and Mexico, I'm going to go ahead and deal with America, patriotism, all of that shit. Cool. I think a lot of Americans and consumers would be cool with that as an idea. But like, bruh, come on, son. Like, make it make sense. And like, yeah, man, these people, these business people, they probably get in touch with Trump's White House. Is like, bruh, my stock portfolio, people's 401ks tied into the freaking stock market. Like, bro, what are you doing? It's bad enough we got an AI bubble that's about to burst. It's like, why are you doing this? And so Trump stopped. Which, again, guys, like, I know we were told that this is, Nazism 2.0, Hitler. The book ban is coming. He's going to round up all the Negroes and the Jews and the Latins soon and send us off to concerts. I know that's what the the elite liberal media was selling on this guy. And I think that's a mistake. I think we could, like, he's a big enough disaster and he's dangerous enough in ways that have nothing to do with that type of shit that we can just talk about what he's actually fucking up on real terms. That's what I think is important. The sort of hair pulling, all of this stuff. Like, bruh, like, it's important to take a sober look at what's actually happening out there. And what's actually happening is just grift. He's not doing a single thing. And I do think people are going to wake up to the fact that, like, yo, he's not doing anything. If you guys want to go to my Instagram, man, at Big Wos, I posted something from goddamn my Ralph's in the freaking Valley. Ralph's being a subsidiary of Kroger, one of the biggest freaking supermarket conglomerates. By the way, Kroger is trying to merge with Albertsons, which would be a disaster for us. Like, they just straight up monopolize the entire grocery industry, so they get to basically set the price at whatever the fuck they feel like, because there's no competition to drive it back down. Anyway, I'm at freaking Ralph's, about to buy some eggs. You know what I mean? I've been on the road basically for 12 days, finally doing some grocery shopping. $15 for 18 eggs, my boy. Insanity. And nothing. What's Trump doing to address this? Nothing. And I don't think, like, yo, and I get it. I think people think the government is inefficient. They want to see the government get cut, whatever. But, like, realistically, what people care about is at the pump, at the grocery store, rents, childcare costs, healthcare costs. Like, bruh, eventually he's going to have to step up to the plate somehow, or else watch his support, and by extension, the Republicans, who, by the way, have a midterm coming up in 2026, which is next year. Like, he got to wake up, bruh, or else I'm predicting a bloodbath for these cats. They're going to get smoked. Anyway, man, just wanted to keep you abreast of the tariff shit, because I think that's the biggest news. It's like, this is a thing that he campaigned on, that I think he actually really cares about and believes in. And, 2 days into it, he's like, on second thought, it is what it is. Okay, shouts to Mara Felsen. Saying that they got avocados in San Diego, which borders Mexico, so that would make some sense. But yeah, just ridiculous, man. Canadian fentanyl could be a good setup for Breaking Bad 2 run. I don't know. I don't know enough about fentanyl. Just one more thing. Again, I tell you guys every day, go support independent journalism. Drop Site News, my guy Ryan Grimm, fucking dispensable. And this is about a debanking rule that CFPB took years to push through. What's debanking, guys? Like, if you guys remember, I remember Kanye got debanked from Chase, I believe, after he did all of his Hitler, swastika, Nazi crazy shit a few years ago. Chase debanked him for being a psychopath about Nazism. But, again, that's just like I don't agree, obviously. I don't like what Kanye does on the internet with his Nazi dick sucking. I think it's weird. I think this guy needs to get back on his meds. But, like, it's not hard to envision. Yes, we hate Kanye and what he does and says. You can't just close a dude's bank account because he tweeted horrible shit. And it's not hard to imagine them doing this to say, I don't know, protesters of the siege in Gaza. Being like, oh, you protest the siege in Gaza? Debank. No financials for you. Oh, you're anti some other war? Oh, you don't agree with this? Oh, you don't like that? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Shouts to Mara. Yeah. Lever is one of the best. David Sirota is a champ. David Dayan at the American Prospect. He's a beast too. But my guy Ryan Grimm, man, at Drop Site, these guys have become so indispensable. And Jerv, if you could just pull this up for me, please. Sorry. Here we go. Here we go. Senate Republicans effectively legalized debanking. The CFPB rule took years to implement due to Wall Street opposition. So before we get into this, you guys, I don't know if you guys remember this, but the Mark Andreessen clown went on Joe Rogan and explained that, CFPB was debanking conservatives and blah, 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 blah. And we need to get rid of the CFPB because, it's these woke people will just take your bank account away if you are a conservative and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it was the opposite of what Consumer Financial Protection Bureau did. They actually legalized it. It was like, this is a crazy practice. You can't just kick people off of their freaking bank account for no reason. But guess what? Republicans, the allegedly anti-woke, pro-free speech party, I'm told, y'all. These are the people that absolutely adore and love free speech, I'm told. Guess who got it back? Anyway. Here we go. Senate Republicans on Wednesday moved to allow payment apps like Venmo, PayPal to return to ideological debanking, repealing a rule implemented in December by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. The rule also required the apps to create a smooth process to dispute resolution when fraudulent activity occurs. Repeal of the rule would leave users of the apps in limbo as laws protecting customers would still be in place, but the rule enforcing the law and the Bureau with the capacity to enforce it would not. The vote on Wednesday afternoon won support of every single Senate Republican who voted, with the exception of Josh Hawley. I'm not gonna lie, Josh Hawley be kind of sometimes putting his money where his mouth is. I don't believe with him in him politically, but he's kind of the only freaking one up there in the Republican Senate who pays any sort of lip service to like some level of populist ideas, which is kind of crazy. Who has regularly broken with his party in support of populist economic policies. The resolution to repeal the rule did not require the typical 60 votes to move forward, meaning Republicans could repeal the debanking rule with just 51 votes and without needing Democratic support. In order for the repeal to go into effect, the House also has to pass a companion measure, HJ Resolution 64, sponsored by Republican Representative Mike Flood. With Democrats in opposition to repeal, only a handful of Republicans would need to vote to no to block the effort. The CFPB rule, which took years to implement due to Wall Street opposition, covers any non-bank financial institution that sees at least $50 million in transactions annually and is not a small business. In other words, simply accepting payment for a service would not trigger the rule, but if the app allows money to move from one party to another, as is the case with Google Pay, Apple Pay, Zelle, and others, the app would be required to follow the relevant laws. The company formerly known as Twitter would be covered if it added such a payment service, as owner Elon Musk has signaled and intends to do. The same is the case with WhatsApp, which has similarly discussed allowing users to make such transactions. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg and Musk, who doubles as a White House employee, fought hard for the elimination of the CFPB. Again, we don't need to read the rest of this, Jerv. But yeah, they want to have the power to basically punish whoever they deem to be their enemies by stopping their access to money flow. That's it. That's it. Then trust me, they're gonna hit you with the, this type of money's. I bet I'll give you any amount of money when the Republicans go to defend this. They're gonna go like, this type of money, we want to be able to stop money from flowing to Hamas and other terrorist organizations and this and that. We know the vibes, man. It's just a mechanism of control, y'all. Like straight up and down, they want to be able to bully people by, being able with the snap of a finger freeze funds. It's kind of crazy. And again, that's how you know these motherfuckers don't mean a word that they ever say about shit like free speech, about being anti-woke, blah, blah, blah. They use all of this shit, cancellation, all of that. They use them against their own enemies. They don't actually stand for anything. They don't have a principle. Like, yes, I think Kanye is a freaking idiot. I think the stuff that he says on Twitter a lot of times is disgusting. However, I don't think that should get you to cut off from your Chase account. I'm sorry. Because it's not hard to see how that can be extended to people that I actually like quite easily. especially when they're speaking actual truth to actual injustices. It's not hard that they can use this same justification against people that we like, right? And so these dudes don't have the courage of their convictions. They're full of shit. Anyway, man, love you guys. Thank you for showing up for us today on the stream. Shout out to my guy John Gervais on the ones and threes, keeping the trains running on time. Make sure you become a Patreon at patreon.com/count the dings, man. Support the work that we're doing up here. We will see you guys next week. I'm out of here. Peace.